Hi, good afternoon, guys. We're back for one more podcast. Welcome to Hear Our Voices. And today we have Mirtha coming to tell you more information about what she does. So you have the floor right now. Tell me, what do you do and how do you help the homeless population?
Okay, thank you, Kadisha, for having me. So my name is Mirtha, again, Mirtha Santana. I work for an organization called Riseboro Community Partnership. We are mostly in the Bushwick, Bed-Stuy, Brownsville, Williamsburg community in Brooklyn. We've been around for almost 50 years, started the organization. I did not start the organization. The organization started almost 50 years ago, I should say, as a senior center. And since then, it's grown to be what it is today. We develop affordable housing. We provide meals for seniors in their home and also operate multiple senior centers throughout North Brooklyn. We also run a youth and education center in Bushwick and provide after school summer youth employment to hundreds of young people in the Bushwick, Bed-Stuy, and Brownsville communities. And we provide homelessness prevention and eviction prevention services in the same communities. My current role is overseeing the program side of what I've described at Riseboro. My title is Chief Program Officer, but I do have to say that I have a background in homelessness prevention. I've worked in homelessness prevention for now close to 14 years, and that's where my technical expertise lies. We at Riseboro oversee a eviction prevention program through legal assistance. We have lawyers, paralegals, community organizers that help protect the rights of tenants, mostly people living in poverty in North Brooklyn and really throughout the Brooklyn community. We also provide a homelessness prevention through our home base program, and home base is part of the safety net that exists for those getting evicted and at risk of homelessness in New York City. We do that through professional case management, benefit navigation, financial coaching, and access to financial assistance, meaning we're able to pay rental arrears and really stabilize people's housing through basically a bucket of money that HRA provides us for that use. And recently we started providing also application assistance for the emergency rental assistance program that the state of New York just rolled out on January 1st. That provides basically the payment of back rent going back to March of 2020. We're assisting anyone who lives in the city with a priority to those who live in Brooklyn and Queens to apply for that grant, and also if they need assistance beyond that, or if they need assistance to pay arrears that go back further than March of 2020, we are referring them to programs like Home Base, for example. And lastly, we have a small, what I call a boutique style rehousing program. We serve around 24 families per year who are living in shelter now, and we provide them the resources through staffing mainly to relocate in the community. So that's basically in a nutshell, in a few minutes, kind of like general description of what the organization does and what I feel passionate about. It's really keeping people housed and keeping communities especially in North Brooklyn, vibrant and filled with immigrants, people of color. We are, at the end of the day, the heart of the city.
You're definitely right about that. As you can see, her organization has a lot of things to offer, to be honest. And the reason why we bring this podcast to you is because we want people to understand, before you even get into the shelter, there's a lot of help out there. You just don't know about the help. And we wanted to bring people who can give you the information, telling you that, oh, this can work for you before you get into the shelter. And even after shelter, she has some aftercare for the people too. So out of every program that you have, what do you think is most successful for people, or what they should know to, like, probably what documents to bring in and things like that? And also, where can they, because you say you only do Brooklyn, right?
So our emergency rental assistance program is would provide services to anyone in the city.
Okay.
The HRA made a few awards to a few nonprofits in New York City to help people with the application. So for that specific program, we could help anyone who lives in any of the 5 boroughs. We are concentrating in people, meaning doing outreach and that type of stuff for people who live in Brooklyn and Queens. Because really, you know, when it comes to providing social services, when it comes to providing services to people who are living in poverty, I really think it's important that we do it in a way that dignifies people. And I would never think it's right to ask someone who lives in Staten Island to come to, for example, Bushwick for services, when there are great organizations in Staten Island, for example, or in the Bronx, who are providing these services. So yes, we do a lot, and we could serve people throughout the 5 boroughs, but things really do have to work, Khadijah, for people. It's not only, Riseboro is one of multiple really great organizations that exist in the city. So mostly Brooklyn. The home-based program is very regulated based on zip codes. That is the one that is probably the most regulated, but everybody, regardless of where they live in the city, have access to a home-based provider. Our zip codes are the zip codes in Bushwick, Brownsville, Williamsburg, and Bed-Stuy. So if you live in, I am sure I'm gonna forget a zip code, by the way. I know I am, but they are 11237, 11206, 11212, 11221, and I'm forgetting, I'm sure, a few. But if you, to know where the appropriate home base is located for you, the best way really is to either call 311 and say, I am at risk of eviction, or I am at risk of homelessness, or I'm living doubled up in an unstable situation. Where is my local home base provider? And they're just gonna ask you for the zip code and provide you the information. Or you could go to the New York City HRA's website, and they in there have a list of all the providers in the city. And I do believe they have a map also that shows, depending on where you zip code you live in, what number, what home base provider you should go to. So home base is regulated by zip codes, even though, however, I should say, HRA has allowed us in the last few years to serve anyone that shows through our doors. There's an open door policy. So for example, if someone lives in Manhattan but happens to work in Bushwick and they want to come to our home base program, that is completely fine also. It's really wherever people feel that they want to get their services.
Understandable. And guys, the services do work, and you might need a little bit of patience to go through the services, because I've definitely used the services in Queens and also in Brooklyn, where I live now. And I could tell you some of the things that I did get so far. What I believe is furniture help and also rent arrears help. So it definitely works. You just have to have patience, like I said, and listen to the workers there and bring the documents that you need. I'm not going to say every single thing is successful going through, but if you just take your time and have patience with the workers, you'll definitely get what you need to help yourself, you and your family. So
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with what you're saying. Patience, but I also encourage people to advocate for themselves and to, I really love, Khadijah, that you're doing this podcast, and just you are, to me, an example of somebody that has, educated themselves in these services and knows how to advocate for herself. So I always encourage that with people. Sometimes things don't go right in social service organizations. We're, for the most part, underfunded. Our staff is stretched very thin, and especially during this pandemic, people are stretched very, very thin. But we are here to help and support people who are especially at risk of becoming homeless. If you feel that the services that have been provided to you are not to your standards, or if you feel like, I don't know, I was found ineligible for something I believe I should be getting, I always tell people, don't be afraid, advocate for yourself, go into the internet, Google information, ask your friends, ask to speak to people's supervisor, because sometimes, you might have a worker that might not have the full picture. So for that reason, I always encourage people, just push, because at the end of the day, we are here to help you. However, this is your family, these are your children who might be at risk of having to go to PATH for a shelter. So don't be afraid to push.
I want to ask a question because it just popped into my head, but I already know the answer, but somebody out there who's listening might not know the answer for this particular question. Do you guys base anything on age? I know like certain programs you have to do a certain age group or things like that. Do you qualify with certain people's backgrounds? People probably wouldn't want to know the answer for that.
So every one of our eviction and homelessness prevention program has a eligibility requirement. I would say for the most part, the only eligibility that applies across the board is income. Basically people have to be living in poverty to receive the services. Age and things of that nature are really not a requirement. However, there are multiple situations, unfortunately, in which people, just to give you an example, the home-based program requires that family with children are under 200% of FPL. And that's very jargony, but there is basically an amount that the federal government calculates every year and says, if you're a family of one, if you're a family of 2 or 3 or 4, this is the maximum amount of money. And we encounter many situations in which people are just above that maximum that they can make per year by $100. And it's at times really devastating, because that means the person's not eligible. And what we end up doing is just providing advice to people in terms of like, go to HRA, apply for a one-shot deal, speak to your landlord, try to work out a payment plan, things like that, taking a roommate, any sort of like potential somewhat solution to the program. But if they are over income, we are not, we're not able. And really the thing that breaks our heart often is the ones that are just over by $100. Clearly, if you're a family of 2 and you're making $100,000 a year, you don't need these services. You don't. If you're, it's the ones that are just slightly above the requirement. And these income requirements, by the way, they're very low. This is a very, very expensive city in which even 2 adults working full-time, earning minimum wage, are not able to afford a $1,400 rent, which is really a very cheap rent in comparison to what people are paying in the city for a 2-bedroom.
That's definitely true. Like she said before, if you do make it over the income bracket, don't feel discouraged because they will give you, the worker should be giving you information of other places what can help you. Example, she used HRA. And again, I used those services before too. So I definitely know that the services work there. I'm gonna say right now, HRA, you also need a lot of patience there. But
Do you need patience?
you just need a lot of patience. I know it's frustrating when you're going through this whole process and you feel like, it feels like honestly nobody's helping you, and because time is crunching down, it feels like I'm never gonna get this done. But usually HRA just comes right under the line. Like, you're about to get evicted tomorrow, you need the money today. They come today, which is sad to say, but it happens. They paid my rent a couple of times through a one-shot deal. They also do storage. You'd be surprised how much things HRA actually do cover. And just have patience. It can get overwhelming. It can be a lot, but just really have patience with the workers. And as she said before, they are stretched thin, especially through everything what was happening last year through the pandemic. The workers are having a lot of people are going more homeless, even though they're not supposed to be going because they have a moratorium in place, but it's still happening. So just take time with the workers. They're trying to help you, and it's just a lot. We're all going through the same crisis. It's not like there's one person going through this. We're going through this like the world's going through. It's not even New York City or America. The world is going through problems, and the people are here who are in these positions are here to help you and to make you hopefully get a better life for you and your family. Just don't give up. That's all I'm saying. So, you have anything else you want to share about what you do?
Yeah, no, I'm trying to go through in my mind like really important items. I mean, I really do encourage people right now to apply for the emergency rental assistance program. Is, you know, everything is done through a portal. For those who are technologically savvy, it should be a process that they could do on their own. You could apply to up to 12 months of back rent. For people who are living in poverty, they could get an additional 3 months of rent for rent. I should call it. Good. These funds are part of a packet that was money that came from the federal government. It's a total of $2.4 billion. I would never in my wildest dreams would think that the state of New York would have access to so much financial assistance to pay rental arrears. Yeah. So if you have any rental arrears, please apply for ERAP. For people that might need assistance to do it, because maybe sometimes tell you computers sometimes drive you crazy, or you might not have a computer. And there's a bunch of also documents that need to be uploaded. I know my staff has been telling me that people are struggling with uploading documents. Even if you do start the application on your own, if you need assistance uploading the documents, you could come to us. The best way to get the information of where to come is just go to riseboro.org. And there is a hotline information there and an email. I remember the email. It is erap@riseboro.org. And hold on, I will give you the hotline also if you give me a few seconds.
No problem.
Because you could call. And by the way, yesterday the director of the program was telling me that she is receiving per day in the hotline over 300 calls of people inquiring for for rental assistance. So if you have questions or you want just questions about the program, or if you want to get an appointment so that you could fill out the application. Again, this is just an application. It's not, you're not going to get case management services. They're not going to ask you to do X, Y, and Z. Just come with your documents, spend an hour, fill out the application with us, and then everything is sent to the state, and they will let you know by email, you and your landlord, if you're going to receive the funds. If you want more information, if you want to ask for an appointment, the hotline number is 718-547-2800. Again, 718-547-2800. Or you could email us, and I do encourage people to email us because the number of calls are so many at this point. It's erab@riseboro.org. That's ERAP@riseboro.org. You could email us, and you'll get, if you send us an email, you'll get a response within 24 hours, and it could just, again, be simply a question, or you could ask for an appointment for one of our staff to help you with the online portal.
Yes, so that will also be in the description below if you didn't catch that, in case you don't want to slow it down or whatever. So that'll be in the description below. Also, guys, the Section 8, I don't think it's closed yet. The Section 8 application is actually out for New York City. As you know, Section 8 had closed down for a little bit, not for a long while, but they opened it back up because they see, I think what it is, this pandemic had showed people that people really need help. And until sometimes the homeless population are honestly forgotten about. But the pandemic put so much people poor and homeless that they had to open their eyes a little bit more, and I think shove a little bit more money in that direction. And that's why a lot of these services are opening back up, which is kind of sad that a lot of people lost their lives. But now, because of their losing their lives, it's not like in vain. Other people are getting help because of it. So yeah, so the Section 8 applications are also out. Fill out that information. It's also a lottery. A lot of things they have in New York City are lotteries, but you never know if you're going to get picked or not. So just put your name in the game so you could be able to probably get something for you and your family. So yes, so don't forget, in the description down below, there will be more information for you. So do you also help with the Section 8 applications or no?
So I'm actually thinking back about Section 8, since they opened the waiting list. I am almost sure, Kadisha, that it just closed.
Really?
I am trying to get the information as we speak. We do help. We do. Once you're eligible for example, our home-based program, we will do any and everything. And one of the things that I didn't mention also with home-based is that the home-based program is the provider that helps community people apply for CDFEPs. So
Okay.
to get CDFEPs, you either have to be in shelter, or if you are in the community, we will complete the packet for you to get CDFEPs, as long as you meet the qualifications, which is, you have to be meeting an income requirement, and also CDFEPs does require that the person has been in shelter before. So the program does help with that. However, I do think Section 8, the applications for the state either close or will be closing very soon.
Okay, I understand. Well, look out for it. They might open it back up soon. I don't know. I don't work with the government, but they might open it back up soon. If not, you can still go to these home-based organizations, and they could tell you, because honestly, in this industry, a lot of things change week to week. So something could be closed. Yes, literally. So one thing could be closed one week and open the next week. So just call, as she said, the number that they gave you earlier, and see what they have to offer you in certain things in that area. Also, I did forget that they do FEPS. Can you explain what city FEPS or FEPS is to people who are listening who doesn't know about this program?
So City FEPS is the city rental assistance program, and it started a few years ago. Prior to the pandemic, it required for city FEPS that people met the income eligibility, that they were at risk of eviction, and that meant really that they had to have a housing court case, at least a stipulation in hand of their case, and then they had to have been in shelter before. Those are the major qualifications for city FEPS. So we could, the home-based program, and really Riseboro does, and any other home-based program in the city, if you meet the qualifications, they put together a packet, and this could be if you are currently in your apartment, we will help you put the packet together, submit all the information to HRA, and HRA would pay any rental arrears and then provide you a ongoing rental assistance program that pays your rent, with the exception of those people who have income through work, for example. They have to contribute 30% of their income towards rent. Very similar to Section A. Section A has the same rules, is that people pay 30% of their income towards the rent. And if you don't have an apartment, then the provider would help you through resources, giving you information and hitting the pavement, find an apartment that meets the rental amount. Recently, the city FEPS programs rental amounts were approved to increase to the same levels as Section 8. Before, they were very low, or they're still very low because the increase hasn't hit. It's going to be hitting later in the year in a couple months. And it's very challenging for people to find apartments at those rental levels. But hopefully, once those increases, the rental increases, meaning the maximum rent that the apartment charges, people will have many more opportunities for apartments. So that's the basics of city FEPS. The state FEPS program goes back to a lawsuit that happened in the 90s. And that program also has an income requirement. However, it's much more strict, requires that people are eligible for a full public assistance case. So mostly if people who are employed typically do not qualify, because again, they must have a full public assistance case to qualify. And they must have a child under the age of 18 to qualify. They do not have to have been in shelter before. That is not a requirement of the state FEPS, but they have to have a child under the age of 18, and they have to have, their income have to be low enough to qualify for a full public assistance program. These programs and also require, by the way, prior to the pandemic, that people had a court stipulation. Both programs now, meaning city FEPS and FEPS, are being much more flexible in terms of what documentation people have to prove risk of homelessness. And it's simply because since the moratorium, as Khadijah mentioned, there's very few filings in housing court, but people still are unable to pay their rent. So the state and the city have made it a little bit more flexible, meaning you don't need a court stipulation. You could get a rental breakdown demonstrating that you have rental arrears. This policy is temporary. If I think this correctly, it's scheduled to expire once the moratorium expires, which is in August, in a couple months from now. But for now, neither of the programs require that you have a court stipulation before you apply. But clearly, the income and the income is a very, very serious requirement. And for state FEPS, you have to have children under the age of 18 to qualify.
I forgot this question earlier, but I'm happy I remembered it. You said that the families have to, or people in general have to be under a certain income bracket.
Mhm.
How long have this income bracket, like, has it moved up? Because like New York City rent has moved up after a while. How often do they move up this bracket of like poverty for the like restrictions for that certain thing?
They move so the federal government have the federal poverty line. They move it every year. Certain programs use the area medium income, which increases every year. We're talking about, so this is what the challenges that exist for when people have very low income. These amounts increase by a very small amount. We're talking about per year $30. Meanwhile, rents increase by every year by $100. So it
doesn't make sense.
The system, the system in this country, I'm gonna say, I mean, this city is probably one of the most expensive cities in the world, but in this country, it's really set up to leave poor people behind. And it is unfortunate. I agree with what you said earlier around the resources that have become available through the pandemic. I am constantly in shock of how we have $2.4 billion for rental assistance. The Section 8 voucher waiting list opened up. HRA is approving one-shot deals left and right, and those are people like me who worked in this field and who have had my own experiences about around housing instability, have asked for years. And there was never enough money, and there was never the right policy, because God forbid if you make money available to those people that do not have any money. But the pandemic has really shown us that all of that is
not true.
Nonsense.
Exactly. Like, we already knew it was nonsense, but they clarified it in the pandemic. Like,
yes,
we really have the money. We just don't want to give it to you.
We just don't.
Succeed. Like, we honestly make the world go round. Like, New York City, without people being, even janitors make a lot of money. Like, people working in Target or different places like Forever 21. I'm just a restaurant business. Without those people, you wouldn't get the necessities that you would get toilet paper, because they're the ones who are selling it to you to help you find it and things like this. But yet they underappreciated, they're undervalued.
Yep.
What are you talking about? If you don't have teachers who get qualified, get enough money to get paid, your kids, your child that you have cannot learn anything to be a person in this world who's going to be able to help anybody. So people who are doing the most work is not getting paid good. I'm not saying give them $1 billion every month. I'm just saying pay them what it should be paid.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't make any sense to me. And if you pay them, help them.
It's people, workers getting paid living wages. If people are able to make through employment enough money to support their families, then we would be, there's always going to be a group of people that are unable to work for whatever circumstance. But in the city of New York, and people applaud this, there's a minimum wage of $15 an hour. But let's just be real. I mean, I $15 an hour, even if you work full time, it's not gonna cut it. It's not gonna cut it even. You're gonna need government assistance. So it's just the bottom line. And the pandemic has really demonstrated that to elected officials and to state and city and federal government, that the expectations that we have in terms of how people living in poverty could sustain themselves are really not realistic.
The crazy thing is like, minimum wage says $15, but probably for a single person, if they get like a small apartment, you might live okay. But once you start adding other people to your docket, say a child or something like that, or even say a parent who can't take care of themselves anymore, that money is going to go so fast in rent and everything else that you're not going to really see where the money's going to. And you say, I'm making all this money, I'm doing all these hours, I'm working full time for $15 an hour, and you're not physically not going to see the money. There's no way they're going to see it and also pay rent and also be a little bit happy. It's really so hard.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. And then the thing about it, they're going to say, oh, if you go to HRA with a certain, like, as you said before, it's going to say, oh, that person makes too much money. Because in their eyes, it's too much money. But really, when you add the expense of what they have, it's not enough money. And that's what the problem also resides in. It's a disconnect.
A person making minimum wage, working full time, makes around $2,400 before Uncle Sam comes and takes part of the money. Yeah. So we're talking about, somebody per month making, take home $1,600. And it just, and if you rent, even if you rent a room, even if you rent a room, even in the situation that you described, that it's a single person, you rent a room for $800, you basically have you have $600-700 to buy food, transportation, have fun from time to time, because we're all human beings, and we all from time to time deserve, as I say, at least to go to Coney Island.
I know, right? Tell me about it. And we learn from this year, having a good mental health space is going to be the best thing for you.
Yes.
We all just been through a lot. So it's just like, come on, give us a little break. Even that 15 hours you said is not even enough for a single person when you think about it like that. So it's like, we need more, and we need to have more resources open for people who are making that amount.
Yeah.
Their mind, who they think is not making, who's making too much. So I don't know what to do. I'm just getting information out.
every chance I have, what I say is that New York City should have a blanketed rental assistance program.
Yeah.
If you're under a certain poverty level, that automatically you receive
that's what I've said. Yes.
You receive a voucher, and that the government helps you with your rent, and not have to put you through so many hoops, and also make it seem, because unfortunately so many of these structures have a very kind of like white supremacist mentality, that you have to put people through all these hoops, and that if they're getting government assistance, you have to humiliate them in the process.
That's so true.
So that's my thinking, is that people, if you are living in poverty in the city, you should just have access to government assistance to pay your rent, period. And that should be a given. You should have access to food, you should have access to healthcare, and you should have access to housing. And I really do think that until we get to that point as a society, we're going to continue to see the cycles of poverty that we see in so many of the people that we serve, because as much as we do here at Riseboro, a lot of it is just a Band-Aid. Let's pay your rental arrears, but your income is so low that you're gonna accrue rental arrears again. So we have to, as a city, as a society, as a nation, really make a decision around what sort of value we want to give the citizens of and when I say citizens, I mean everybody that lives in this nation. How we're gonna treat the people that live in this nation, and or continue to create what happens now, continue to do Band-Aids programs here and there, and for cycles of poverty just continue to perpetuate, because just people do not have enough resources to be able to have a job that pays enough money to pay their rent and to support their family, and to bring them to Coney Island once or twice a year.
I know. I have another question for you too. It's about immigration. People who are undocumented, do you help them also?
Yes, so that is another silver lining of the pandemic. It's just, wow, things that I've never would have imagined
I know, right?
are happening now. So for the emergency rental assistance program, I'm going to say that first. ERAP that I was talking about earlier, immigration status is irrelevant. They will ask people in the application for a social security number, but if they do not have one, that is completely fine. That is not going to be a deterrent for them to help to get that. And also, all the home-based program received a award of money, basically to help undocumented people through a program we call Project Parachute, or FASTEN, and that is exclusively to help people who are undocumented or potentially people who live in non-traditional non-traditional employment, like I don't know, delivery guys or that type of stuff. That funding came from a combination of philanthropy. All the foundations in the city of New York has freely stepped up during the pandemic, and also a contribution from the association of the nonprofit and the for-profit landlords of the city. And now every home-based program has access to this fund that would help pay back rent for undocumented people, and also provide them with case management services, financial empowerment services, and that type of stuff.
That sounds really good. See, no matter what situation you're in, no matter what your background is, they're here to help you guys. Don't be scared. I know at first it might be kind of daunting, like, oh my gosh, I have to get help. But at one point in their people's lives, they need help. No matter how rich you are, you might not need help in money if you're rich, but you might need mental health, because money does not make you happy. The money doesn't, solve certain problems, but not everything inside they can help you with. So don't feel any way, don't feel embarrassed. They're here to help you. I'm hoping that they don't look down on you because you're coming for the service, because one day they could be in your shoes also, So just, keep your head up and just get the services to make you and your family better. And one day you're not always going to be at that point where you can't afford it. One day it will get better. Do you have any last words for the people?
I think your words were just so great that I really don't know how to top that. Post our information, riseboro.org. You get all the information you need about our services there. And yeah, do what Khadijah says. Keep your head up and ask for help, and there will be better days.
Yes.